to Raj's Astrology. And today we are going to discuss the Saturn Transit effects for 2020 for the Aquarius moon sign. Right. So for Aquarius folks, pretty much the last 2.5 years would have been really wonderful because you had an array of planets were in a very good position. Well, even the new year, as we're going to start with a bang for Aquarius folks because again, all your planets are well aligned currently. But on January 24th, there is a major transit happening, and that's Saturn is going to transit to your 12th house. So right now, Saturn is sitting comfortably placed in its 11th house, and on January 24th, 2020, Saturn moves to your 12th house. So what does this mean what does this mean for Aquarius folks? Are there a lot of changes going to happen? So see, 12th house in astrology. So this house right over here in Capricorn is considered to be the house of losses. So when Saturn enters into the 12th house, there are going to be some changes. But the main thing, one thing which we all need to focus right now, the entering of Saturn in the 12th house is the beginning of your long karmic journey. It's the beginning or the touch point for the 7.5 years of Saturn. So this is going to be the beginning of the long 7.5 years of Saturn, and that's the beginning of a karmic journey for Aquarius folks. And basically, there's nothing to be worried about because still the other planets are in very good position, but Saturn entering into the 12th house will slowly change the activities and the optimism which you have been continuing for the last few years for now. So now, when Saturn enters into your 12th house, and this time it's going to stay for 3 years, we'll talk about what Saturn is going to do in this 12th house. And being an Aquarian, what are the things you might experience and how to chalk your way forward in this year. So in this journey of with the 7.5 years of Saturn, you're going to learn a lot of things because Saturn is a hard taskmaster and he's going to teach you various karmic lessons which you might have to respond. And these learnings will surely help you to better yourself and understand yourself as a person during this particular transit. So the first thing you're going to notice is Saturn is going to slow things down for you. So the last few years you've been pretty optimistic and in a pretty gung ho and you would always look for expansion. So the moment it enters into a 12th house, it's going to slow things a bit for you. You're going to notice that things there would be a constriction or basically a contraction in things which you were which you just thought would come your way anyway. So Saturn is not known for expansion; he's known to constrict and reduce. So that's one of his patterns how he works. And you're going to notice that the tasks are going to be pretty repeated. I mean, you might find the task coming slowly and repeating itself during this entire duration of this 7.5 year Saturn. But let's focus now on the first 2.5 years where it's going to stay in Capricorn. So one good news is Saturn is going to transit in his own house of Capricorn, where he's pretty comfortable. And another thing, Saturn is your Lord of Aquarius. So Saturn is your, is just it's a Lord of your sign. So generally, we can expect very mild effects at least during this 1 year in 2020. So that's something which will prepare you or gear you up for the tougher times which are going to come after a year. And when things are getting slow, things are getting constricted, things are getting repeated with no luck and with no success, normally a sense of frustration is going to creep in. So that's something you'll have to keep in your mind because generally you'll get frustrated doing those repeated tasks again and again. But the real motive here is to make you very accomplished because practice makes you perfect. So Saturn makes sure that you will fail on those repeated tasks again and again, and then you will come out really victorious. So that's the pattern of this 7.5 years of Saturn for Aquarius folks. So Saturn entering into the 12th house from your natal moon. So if you, as I said, if the moon is in Aquarius and Saturn will enter into Capricorn. So that's a 12th house from Aquarius, and this 12th house, it's one of the houses which we call as the house of losses. So when Saturn enter into your 12th house, you might suddenly experience some losses. So when losses can be categorized in various ways. You might lose something, you might lose a friend, you might lose someone close to you, you might feel a bit lonely. So that's one of the characteristics the moment Saturn enters into your 12th house, because you might lose money. There's some loss which is associated with the entry of Saturn in your 12th house. So the 12th house is also the house of hospitalization or a private bedroom, because so normally it means that you might be confined. So it doesn't mean that you would be hospitalized. It just means that you would be confined to a lonely space. So either you might have a private space to yourself. You'll have to stay for a long time. So it can also indicate some kind of health issues which might force you to be confined to bed, or probably it basically it entails that you might turn out to be a little lonely in this phase. So your 12th house also signifies research, because in Saturn entering into your 12th house might open up avenues for you for that long pending research which we are planning to do, because research is a painstakingly slow process, and Saturn excels when it enters into a 12th house. You might find your avenues opening up for the long pending research which we are planning to do. So whichever house Saturn enters, he looks at what's there in that particular house, or what are the karakas of those particular house, and Saturn will show his effects on all the specific karakas. So one thing, which just to repeat, one thing would be it's you might have some losses to you personally. There might be, I mean, it's not that you would be hospitalized. That's one of the karakas of the 12th house. The third one is research. So it might open up avenues to do that long pending research which you are planning. The other thing which is a characteristic feature of the 12th house is foreign lands. So Saturn entering into your 12th house, there might be some beneficial aspects. So you might have to move out to a foreign land, or you might have to settle down, or you might have to leave your foreign land and come in. So whichever ways Saturn, there will be a small effect in case you're living abroad, or in case you're living in within your hometown. There's some connectivity with foreign lands which Saturn would interfere. So these are the main areas in the 12th house which Saturn you would be feeling the the pressure of Saturn, because though Saturn is situated comfortably in his own sign Capricorn, it's still the 12th house. So there's going to be some effects of that Saturn transit which is going to affect the Aquarius folks. But it's not all dark in this Saturn transit, because till November, Aquarius can actually, have a great amount of hope, because you have this wonderful transit of Jupiter, which is, safely set in your 11th house of gains. So this Jupiter is going to be a savior, because Jupiter in 11th is one of the most auspicious transit, because Jupiter is a planet which expands in whichever house it goes. So when it's sitting comfortably in your 11th house of gains, you rest assured you're going to reap the benefits till November 2020. Even though Saturn is entering into your house of losses, you still have a backup with Jupiter, sitting in a great position, and sitting in your house of gains. So that's going to multiply your gains. The only thing is you'll have to carefully plan your transit, where exactly which areas are going to affect. So you'll notice a pattern once the Saturn moves on January 24th, and based on that you'll have to take out your decisions. So, like I said, so all your hope is going to come from Jupiter, and Jupiter is going to maximize your gains during this period. So you need to make sure you need to plan in such a way that by November you should be maximizing all the gains which Jupiter gives you during this period. So another feature of this Saturn transit is from the 12th house. So your 12th house is the house of losses, and from I mean, sitting in your 12th house, Saturn aspects three more houses. So he aspects your second house, he aspects your sixth house, and he aspects your ninth house. So when Saturn aspects to your second house, so your second house is a house of your family and finance. So these are the indicators of the second house. So when Saturn casts an 100% aspect to your second house, remember he's looking from the house of losses, And when he looks from the house of losses to your second house, he tends to give you losses in these areas. So basically, you might look at some family loss, or you might look at a loss in your finances. So it's really a time for you to keep an extra eye on, on these aspects of your second house. So if you have your finances not really chalked up, and this is a time because Saturn is really looking forward to give you some losses. And also in terms of your family, you need to make sure that you have all the health concern of your family duly noted and duly observed, because you never know how the transit, these effects may or may not occur, but this is one of the indicators when Saturn looks into your second house. So basically, your second house is your house of gains, and when Saturn looks from a house of losses, he'll try to minimize your gains in all the aspects which are indicative of the second house. So the second aspect of Saturn is to your sixth house, and your sixth house is your house of your debts, enemies, and diseases. So naturally, you might have issues, you might have your litigation or legal cases coming up. So the reason, the logic being, so when Saturn in the 12th house looks at your second house, he reduces your gains. You get hit in your family and finance. And when you get hit in these aspects, you naturally go for debts from other people, and you can't pay your debts, you increase your enemies. And when you increase your enemies and your debts, your health gets suffered, and you get entangled in various diseases and various issues. And again, 12th house, as I said, is one of the indicators of hospitalization. So this is a cycle in which Saturn would try to interfere and would try to affect you in these particular aspects. So all you need to do is you have to be very careful, chalk up your finances, and cut short your losses. So that's something which things which would be coming. You cannot avoid it as such, but you can be, as the saying is, forewarned is forearmed. So the last aspect of Saturn is to your ninth house. So the ninth house is your house of your luck, your foreign travel, your father. Your father is indicated by the strength of your ninth house, and it also, it's a house of it's a very spiritual house. It's owned by Jupiter, so it's a spiritual house, the ninth house, which we consider. So when Saturn looks into your ninth house, so generally you might have health issues. Your father might have some health issues. That's one of the indicators. You might have that elusive luck missing you out, because he's looking from your house of your losses to your luck. So your luck generally diminishes during this period. So you must have been very lucky in the last 2.5 years, but you might get a hit on your many things which you think would come to your way automatically getting delaying, because but remember, Saturn just delays, he never denies. So there is a small delay in your luck getting you. Your foreign travel might be delayed, or you might, if Saturn is in a good position in your natal chart, and that means he might help you in foreign travel. Otherwise, you might have some delay in your foreign travel. And also, Saturn is a planet, it's a very karmic planet, so it wants to give you karmic lessons for a greater, higher goal. So you might even turn up a little more spiritual during this period. So these are some of the the areas which Saturn is going to show his presence in the year 2020 for you. So the 7.5 years of Saturn, so the beginning phase is not a very tough phase. Generally, the initial phase are not tough. So you can assure yourself, at least for the next 1 year coming around, it's not going to be a very tough transit for Aquarius folks. But just to keep an eye on these three houses which I discussed with you. So make sure that you are on top of your game this time. The reason I say it's not going to be a tough time, because you see, you have a wonderful Jupiter sitting at your 11th house of gains. So when Jupiter is sitting at the 11th house, he looks at your third house, he looks at your fifth house, he looks at your seventh house. So when he looks in your third house is a house of your communication, and your brothers and cousins is denoted by a third house. So Jupiter looking at the gains, so that there might be gains with your communication. So you might be doing a business where you need to speak, or with your communication, you can gain earns in your business. So that's one of the aspects. And third house is also considered good for business. So if you have a good communication styles, Jupiter generally amplifies and expands it. And also brothers and cousins. So you might get out, you might get into an even with in an aspect of gains from your brothers or your cousins. You might even get into a business where you would be investing together, or they would be gifting you, something, some kind of wealth which is going to come your way. So that's also an indicative look of Jupiter, because the Jupiter's, stay and look both are very auspicious. So the next house which Jupiter looks is your fifth house, and the fifth house is a house of your children, your creativity, your luck and speculation. So fifth house is also very lucky for business. And when Jupiter looks into your fifth house, there might be good news in terms of a new kid might be on his way. You might get very creative in your profession, or otherwise as well. It's also a good time for you to speculate. The another thing which I say, it's a good time to speculate because Rahu is sitting in your fifth house, and Rahu is an indicator of speculation. So if you have your investment in your shares and stock, it's a good time to invest. But you need to make sure that you just invest it for a long term buy, say now, and just take your profits by November, because November Jupiter goes to his next house. That's going to be the 12th house, and that's not a good transit for Jupiter. So plan your investment in such a way that you're able to reap profits from now till November 2020. And because Rahu is in, he's very great in terms of finding out of money, but you need to be careful because Rahu can find out devious ways of getting money. So that's one thing you have to be very careful now. So all in all, Jupiter's look in your fifth house is really going to help you in these aspects.
Right. So after the fifth house aspect, the next aspect is Jupiter to your seventh house.
So your seventh house is the house of your spouse, and it's also the house of your agreement. So it's a good time, basically, to get married. It's also indicated of some gains from your spouse. Also, there are some agreements which you are long pending agreements. It's a good time to sign those agreements. Maybe it's a business deal which you're waiting for quite some time. So it's a good time till November to sign those agreements and take your gains forward. Even though Saturn is transiting to your 12th house loss, you won't be affected much till November 2020, because you have this wonderful Jupiter which is supporting you with gains all over. So all in all, I would say it's going to be a 50-50 mix for Aquarius folks in the year 2020. So with these indicators which I've just presented to you in this video, you can plan and take your life forward. Right. So that's it from me for on this particular video. Thank you so much for watching my channel. So if you do like this video, please do like and subscribe for more videos on Saturn Transit. Thank you so much for watching my YouTube channel. Have a great day. Cheers. Bye.